Hey, Wilby, hold on, I'm just waiting for my guests. I sent you the link. How was your day so far, Wilby? Hi, Shaunna.
Hi.
I just got to figure out the best way to set this, so bear with me a moment.
Not a problem.
I don't like that setup. That one's better. There we go. Sometimes with some of the settings, if you don't hit the right one, you're kind of off-centered. And I
Yeah,
hate
you
that.
do.
So how was your, let's see, it is what, morning there for you?
Yeah, 9:23 in the morning.
That's early. I could have
It
put
is
this
early.
on. I know that the UK time is a lot different.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Atypical Hustlers. How are you? So, for anybody just coming in here, I'd like to welcome our guest, Shaunna Sparkles Clarke. She suffers with bipolar syndrome, and this is going to be an interview on what it's like in her life to have bipolars. Because we all know any type of mental health issue is always misunderstood, and there's such a big stigma about everything. And unfortunately, people prejudge because they don't know how to look from here. They just use this, and if somebody goes through something, all of a sudden it's like, oh well, they have a problem, and they don't try to understand the problem. And that's why I love these interviews, because it helps bring more awareness, not just teaching people, the medical aspects of it, but what it's like for the person that has it.
That's true.
Because that's the best way to understand is you cannot totally understand what a person's going through unless you have it.
That's
And,
right.
I think doing the interviews like this will bring more awareness to people.
Mm.
We only have 3 people in here. One reason is because my previous person is also from the UK, but we had a little bit of a problem with her. Hello,
Oh, okay.
R5, welcome. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I like to start this interview off, Shaunna, with can you kind of tell us when you got diagnosed with bipolar syndrome?
Oh, it would be over about 5 years ago. Um, I didn't know exactly what was going on. I just knew that something wasn't right. Um, 1 minute I could be way, way up, you know, on a real high where I wouldn't go to bed of a night time. I couldn't sleep. I was awake from all stupid hours, like from say 9 o'clock at night to say like 7 o'clock the next morning, and that was my high days, what they call high
Mm-hmm.
um, things. Um, and then all of a sudden, as I was coming down, I'd get very snappy, real quick. No one could look at me. I'd just nap. And I thought, well, hey, what's going on? This is not me. And anyway, I went to the doctor and I just bawled my eyes out. And she said, oh, you've got depression. Okay, that sort of fits, but it didn't, sort of thing. So I got talking with somebody else and they said, no, what you're describing is bipolar. And I went, oh. And my heart just sunk, And but then well, she actually decided, because I started getting really irate and upset, and that was it, and I lost it, not directly at her, not that she did anything wrong, but she recognised the symptoms and said, right, come with me. I said, where are you taking me? Anyway, she actually took me up to the hospital and I got admitted into the psychiatric part of the hospital, and it was there that I found out I had bipolar. Yeah, so.
Does anyone in your family suffer from bipolar?
No, but they do have your normal depression. Well, if you can define it normal, but depression. One of my brothers got the depression just after my mother had passed on, and he wouldn't cry. He just smoked and couldn't get it into his mind that, well, it's okay for him to grieve. So yeah, he wouldn't allow himself to grieve, and that's how he ended up with depression. But other than that, I mean, he hadn't, well, to my knowledge anyway, hadn't spoken of bipolar, but all of my family know that I've got bipolar. I made sure everybody in my family knew, because, well, if for any reason I had an episode where I was either having a high or a low, especially with the low, that they can either, one, help me by getting to the hospital, getting to a doctor, and making sure I've taken my medication. And so there's always steps in place for someone to help me when I need it. So, and that's important.
Awesome to hear. Because
Yeah.
I know the medical system there in the UK is a lot different than here. And when I did the research on autism over there, it's kind of like behind as far as a lot of the mental illnesses compared to the US,
Yeah,
where a lot of kids have it, but they're not diagnosed until they're in their adult stages.
that's
And I
it.
think that's also important for people to understand, because a lot of people don't realize that in different countries, the medical systems are different. So, they could be behind or ahead of us.
That's
But
it.
when I was reading, UK, I think, is behind us with it. And and that's why a lot of people don't get diagnosed over there with any type of mental illness until they're in their adult years.
Yeah, well, that's it.
So they don't catch it as early as United States does.
No, I mean, I could have had this back in my early 20s and not know. I was probably about 47 when I was first diagnosed. I'm 52 now, so yeah, I didn't know until then. But I did say to one of the doctors at the hospital, because they let me out Just a quick story. They let me out for weekend access to be with family, just to see how I'd go, and it was working towards getting me home from hospital, because by then I'd already had a month in hospital, way too long as far as the doctor was concerned. But I needed that time. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the first day I got home, I went for a walk down to the shop, which was only probably half an hour, 20-minute walk from where I lived. It wasn't that far. And I crossed the road, and normally I would have crossed where there was traffic lights. But this particular day, because I didn't go down far enough, I didn't worry about it. So I just crossed the road like I would have if I'd been at the lights. And I just stood right in a dead centre of the road, sat down, and I was just staring off blankly in the distance. But what I
Mm-hmm.
thought in my mind, I was seeing a car parked on the other side of the road, but it was in flame, and I could hear, or thought I could hear people screaming, "Get me out, get me out," and I'm literally shaking because I could see this car on fire, and it frightened me. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
someone had come up to me and they were literally shaking me. "You all right, man? You all right? Get up quick. We need to get you off the road." "Why? I'm not on the road." "You've got to help that woman over there in that car. You've got to get her out. She's got kids in that car, for sakes, you know." And he said, "But there's no one there." And that I can still hear today. It just frightened me so much. I
I
went
can
back on the
imagine.
Sunday. Oh, it was horrendous. I mean, I could literally smell the car burning. Anyway, I turned around and I said to the doctor, "Look, I don't think I'm ready." And he said, "Why?" I told him what had happened. And he said, "No, no," he said, "You'll be fine." Anyway, I went home the next day. And you know what? I would not leave that house unless I had someone with me the whole time. It took me probably a good 12 months before I had the courage to actually get up, walk out my front door, and go down the street by myself. It just
Yeah,
frightened the
I would
crackers out of me.
imagine that that would cause a form of agoraphobia. And
Mm,
I'm surprised that, when you told him what happened, that it didn't, bother him and he didn't try
mm.
to explain what was happening.
Yeah, well, that was just the doctor I had at the time. He really didn't want to know. And I think it was like, "Oh, it's too big of a problem for me to deal with. I don't need to know that." And I put it in the too hard basket sort of thing. So, but eventually I got on the right medication because he had me on, what's it called? Oh, I can't even pronounce the name of it. Lipdor or something to that effect. I mean, if someone's on is bipolar, they'll know what I'm talking about. Um, but yeah, it was a horrible, horrible medication. It banged on the
Was it
weight.
lithium?
That might have been the one actually, lithium, yeah.
I
And
have some friends back in New Hampshire, where I'm originally from, that had that, and they had a lot of bad side effects from it.
mm,
One of them, it made their jaw lock, where
mm,
she couldn't talk because her jaw was locked tight. So when she
uh,
talked, she couldn't
yeah.
move her teeth because her jaws were locked.
Oh God.
So
Yeah.
when you got diagnosed with bipolar, what was it like for you? Was it like scary? What type of emotions do you go through when, you're diagnosed with that?
Well, I had like a lot of mixed emotions. I was happy that I had the diagnosis, but I was angry at the fact that it wasn't picked up sooner. And once it was picked up, at least I was given some tools to work out how I could better cope with it. Some of the things that I found that worked was meditation. And there is a lot of videos on YouTube that talk about meditation for bipolar. That's one of them. Music's another one. For me, I find it helpful just doing everyday vlogs. And what I did, and well, initially my channel was to deal with bipolar and how I dealt with it.
Mm-hmm.
I did do a few videos on that, and I went into great depth of basically how it started and the lead up, excuse me, the lead up to it. And so, yeah, I went into great detail with that. But also, you'll see some videos there that I've done using Snapchat. If you can't laugh at yourself, well, then you can't laugh at yourself. Simple as
Yeah,
that.
a
So
lot of times, they say that laughter is the best medicine, and it has
that's
been,
exactly right.
proven true.
Yeah, exactly. And like I've been really, really good for months now and not had any lows, which is fantastic. Sometimes the highs are a little bit much at times, but I live with what I've got, so and I managed to keep going, so that's the main thing.
For those that don't understand in the chat what a manic, what the difference is between a manic episode and the other one, could you kind of tell us what it's like to go into a manic episode, and then when you come down from it, what it's like?
It's like if I'm trying to think, probably if anyone knows, if you have a sugar high and you have so much chocolates and sweets and lollies and you're so full of sugar and you on the go, you're bouncing off the walls and you just can't sit still. You've got to keep going all the time. Once you're at that point, then all of a sudden you start to cry for no apparent reason. You get angry with yourself because you've taken in pounds and pounds and pounds of sugar, and then it's bam, straight down. You start crying, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're just not thinking logically by this stage. That is the top, and you just want to fight anyone and everyone, basically. That's the low. I do believe, though, some people in their lower stage can be a high. It's different for everybody. But again, that like there's all forms of bipolar. So, I mean, just because one thing might not necessarily be the same for me, it might be for somebody else, you know.
Yeah, I think there's, if I'm not mistaken, if I can remember correctly, there's, I think, 3 different types of bipolar.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
Um, can you tell us how bipolar affects your everyday life?
Ooh. When I'm on a reasonably high or a low, it doesn't matter, but mostly a low, it affects me the most, where I don't want to do anything. I just want to stay in bed. I just want to curl up with my Winnie the Pooh teddy bear that I've got in my room. That's my comfort. Um, and probably, just watch YouTube, or where I'll just stay in bed all day and watch various people on YouTube, whether it's your channel or whether it's um, Hazy Days or a few others that I got to know on here and stuff. But um, I I don't like the lows. I'm a happy person, so the highs are better for me in certain regards. But at the same time, I don't like being bouncing off the walls either. So it's a
Yeah,
no-win
you'd
situation.
like to have like a happy medium in between.
Yeah, and sometimes it's very hard to get that. If you only got to miss one day of medication, that can put everything out of whack. So you've really got to be vigilant taking your medication all the time. And it helps to take it the same time every day.
Exactly, and that's what a lot of people don't understand with any type of mental illness. They don't realize how important the medication is.
No, that's it. I did read somewhere, actually, it was on Facebook, just because someone might look healthy on the outside, you don't see the illness of mental health. Um,
Exactly.
yeah,
That's
so
why people need to look with their hearts because the hearts can look inside a person. And
that's
instead of
it.
judging them, they can try to understand, and if they something doesn't seem right when you're looking with your heart instead of with your eyes, you can say, is something wrong? This doesn't seem like you. And then they can be
Exactly.
more supportive and encouraging instead of putting people down because people don't realize,
That's it.
if you try to judge somebody just
That's
because it's what you
yeah.
see on the outside, what you don't think is a harmful thing, you may say something just jokingly, but you don't know what that person's gone through in their life. You don't know what they're
No,
going
that's
through
it.
now.
That's
That
exactly right.
that one comment could be the straw that breaks the camel's back to make them
Exactly.
take their life. And then how are you going to feel knowing that? And that's
Exactly.
why I love my channel and I love doing this because hopefully with doing this and everything I do on my channel, I can teach one person how to change their way of thinking about other people and teach them how to see from the heart and not the eyes.
That's it. Exactly.
Um, with your bipolar, when you got diagnosed, or even before you got diagnosed, did it affect your relationships in any way?
I was lucky because the guy that I'm currently living with is my ex-husband. He's also got a channel on YouTube, but he doesn't use it very much because of his ill health at the moment. But he has been very supportive and understanding, and I know I can go to him any time of the day or night and say, well, hey, look, I'm not coping. I need to talk. Can you sit with me? And he's often said to me, doesn't matter what time, day, night, whatever. You want to talk, we'll talk. Um, he's been there for me through thick and thin of all of this. So it's been really fantastic.
And that is so awesome because a lot of times we know exes aren't always that nice.
No, they're not. And I know if it was my daughter's father, on the other hand, well, I don't want to talk to you. And I
Yeah,
have
I was with something like
me.
that.
No, so, but I don't think I'd want to talk to him either. So, but anyway,
When you found out you had bipolar, or when you could have been diagnosed with it, did that affect your work in any shape, form, or matter?
well, because No, because when I was first diagnosed, and I still am, I'm on a disability pension anyway, so I was just, um, uh, what do you call it? Housekeeper. I'd keep the house and make sure the housework and everything was done, although Captain Starkers would help as well. I mean, just because we're ex-husband and wife, I mean, we do things separately. We have our own lives and everything, but we live under the one
Mm-hmm.
roof. And like, you know, it was a case of, well, if I needed someone to talk to, as I said earlier, he'd be there. He'd make himself available so that I could sit and talk with him. But like, I'd do the housework. He'd pitch in and do housework as well. So, I mean, it was a 50-50 type arrangement where he'd do what he needed to do for the housework or the yard or whatever, and I'd just do the housework, the cooking and the washing and stuff like that. Well, my washing anyway, but if he's often have 2 or 3 pairs of trousers or shorts or whatever, I'd say, well, do you have any washing? Because I've got a bit here to make a load. I might as well do
Mm-hmm.
yours as well. So it was pointless for him to do washing for 2 or 3 items for that week, where I'd have heaps of clothes to wash.
Well, it's
So
good that he
it
helps
just made
out
it
because a
easy.
lot of men don't. What did you find was the worst prejudices that you went through when you found out that you were had bipolar disorder?
Oh, yeah, a lot of people, like, I always used to be very scared of saying to someone, oh, but I've got bipolar. And the minute that word was out of my mouth, it was like, well, get away from me. I don't want it. And their attitude and words behind what they were saying is and can be very hurtful. Um, I mean, you can't catch it. You can't.
Yeah,
It's just
exactly.
physically, you can't catch it. It's a chemical imbalance in the brain. And
Mm.
a lot of people don't get that. So,
No, it's like a lot of other mental illnesses. A lot of mental illnesses are passed down from somewhere in the family, whether it be parents, grandparents,
mm,
great grandparents, but somewhere in the family line.
mm.
Like you said, it's not something like a flu or a cold that you can pass on to somebody else.
No, well, that's it. Uh,
I
but
bet though when that happened, it must have been horrific for you, because I remember just with my physical handicap of being legally blind, the
yeah,
comments I used to get growing up, how hurtful they were as a child. So,
yeah,
I can imagine the thoughts that must have went in your head at the time that people reacted like that. It must have made your lows even lower,
oh,
where
for
you
sure.
almost felt like you didn't deserve to be here anymore.
Yeah, well, honestly, I felt that way a lot when I was, or just after I was first diagnosed. And I just kept saying, like, in the end, I started keeping a journal. And it was a good thing that I did, because every other week I'd go to my psychiatrist and I'd show him my journal rather than try and sit there and like, yada, 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 yada. And this is how I'm feeling. I want to commit suicide, rah, rah, rah.
Mhm.
Um, by keeping the journal, he could read word for word what I was saying, and he'd say, but what do you mean by this? And then I'd have to sit there for about 5 or 10 minutes trying to explain, well, this is what I mean. Okay. So a couple of, well, I won't say a couple of occasions, but on one occasion he did put me back in hospital because the medication that I was on wasn't quite, it needed adjusting basically, is what they were doing. Excuse me. They had to adjust the dosage because it was just borderline helping, but it needed upping so that I wasn't feeling the way I was. Anyway, he turned around and he told me, right, they put me on Seroquel, which uh, is a mood stabilizer.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I take that morning and afternoon or evening, whatever. Anyway, by the time evening come around, I was so zonked out of my brain, I just could not function. And I got out of hospital again after I'd been in there a week. And I said to my own doctor, I said, look, I said, I just can't function properly. Look at my eyes, they're just like this. She said, yeah. She said, you look like you haven't slept for a week. I said, I feel like I can sleep for months. She said, why? And I
Mm-hmm.
told her about the dosage. They had me on 150 milligram of
That's a lot.
Seroquel. Uh-huh. No wonder I was feeling bleh.
Yep.
Anyway, she said, right, we'll cut it back to 100. I said, okay. Like this. And anyway, so following week goes back. She said, how are you going with it? I said, I stopped taking it. I said, because I just can't function with it. Well, she said, you shouldn't have stopped it. She said, boy, did I get into trouble. Ooh. Um, all right, she said, we'll cut it back to 50. Okay. Well, one day I goes to bed. I think I was in bed at 6 o'clock at night, this particular night. I slept all the way through till 5 o'clock the next afternoon. That was way too much
Wow.
sleep.
Oh,
Mind you, I
yeah, I
didn't
think
mind the
you had a
sleep,
little
but
much still in your system.
yeah. And anyway, I had to keep going back regularly to find out, and I'll keep her updated as to what was going on. Anyway, I told her what had happened. She said, yeah, we want you to sleep, but not that much. Anyway,
I
anyway, so
understand that.
cut it back. No, I'm not cutting it back any further. And I said, oh, well, this is me then for the rest of my life. Anyway, this one time I had a massive breakdown. Anyway, um, I wrote in my journal, and I had literally started slicing, and I don't recommend this to anybody. Whatever you do, please do not do it. I had literally started slicing myself, and I got the blood and just smeared it all over my journal in the pages. And the doctor said, what's this from? And I showed him my wrist, and he said, right, young lady, we're putting you back in hospital. And I said, why? He said, that's attempted suicide. Even though I didn't cut the way to do it properly, I didn't do it that way. So
You're
obviously
there.
I didn't want to literally die, but I wanted to harm myself just so that I could see the blood.
Mm-hmm.
I got a little bit more than I bargained for that day, because yeah, he ended
Yep.
up putting me in hospital.
But it's a good thing because, you could have done it worse enough and bled out enough, although you
Mm,
didn't go. really deep, you still could have bled out.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, I've got too much to live for, and I know that now. Um, I've got 6 grandkids and one on the way. So I want to see them grow up and get married and have kids of
Mhm.
their own. So, yeah, I've got too much to live for. And
After
I
you
think,
got After you got diagnosed with bipolar, did it scare you that your kids or your grandkids may have it?
oh, look, that scares me every second of the day. But at the end of the day, I can't do anything to change it. But my daughter, however, can make sure that, she's going to be there for her kids as much as I am anyway. Um, she has depression and suffered with postnatal depression some time ago, with her second boy, maybe even her first actually as well. But it was more prominent in this with the second child. Um, and I said to her, look, as much as being a parent to try and teach your children and get them to understand that a mental health issue is a problem, they don't always see it. And that's the same with um, people that don't understand mental health. They don't
Yes.
always see it and they don't understand it. That's why. Um, so, yeah, it does scare me that, well, what if her kids get it and how is she going to cope with 7 kids with it or 6 kids? So, yeah, I think if we've got enough, well, between myself and the medical journos out there that have got, a better understanding of it, then, well, between me and her doctor and everybody around her, it should, maybe I'm thinking in my heart, this is what I want, but obviously it is what I want too. So that maybe we can arm her with the tools that she needs to be able to protect those kids as well.
Yeah, so if she starts showing symptoms, she can catch it at an early stage and
Yeah,
not go through
exactly.
the torment and stuff that, you go through
Mm,
when they found it at a later age.
that's it. Yeah,
We always want better for our kids than what we go through in life.
exactly.
Um, has your bipolar caused any other type of mental illness? Now I know, with the lows, of course, depression comes with that. That's part of the bipolar is from going, from the happy to the real bad low on
Yeah,
depression.
it can
But
cause
does it like,
anxiety. Oh, I just lost my chair.
they're hard to
Yeah.
get comfortable in.
Uh, Along with that also comes anxiety. I watched your interview with Bill Skills the other day where you interviewed him about anxiety, and I thought, yep, that's me all over. With mix that in with the bipolar, it's sort of like you got um, post-traumatic stress disorder, you've got depression, you've got anxiety, then bipolar on top of that. That's a concoction for an explosion all in one. So,
Yes.
yeah.
My late husband had severe PTSD, and I know all the aspects of the person going through it to the one that is closest to them. And matter of fact, my neighbor across the street was telling me her son was going through problems with his girlfriend because
Mm,
his girlfriend's ex has PTSD, but it is not treated.
mm,
And they had problems and they weren't together for about a year, but because he's not addressing his PTSD, he's
Mm.
becoming violent and threatening them. And I was
Oh,
explaining to her, I said, it's because he didn't get treatment. She didn't go through treatment, so she doesn't know. And she just, like everybody else that doesn't
yeah,
understand any type of problem, I can't deal with this.
yeah.
With my late husband, he got his from when he was in the service, and I remember the alienation that I went through with it.
Oh,
I remember his nightmares, his flashbacks, his edginess, and everything else. But we did things together. I did not want to be part of this statistics of, the Vietnam vets that end up divorced because of their problems. It's like, that's not how a family unit should be. He accepted me with my physical limitations. It would not be
yeah,
fair to him to not, to say, well, I can't have anything to do with you because of your mental limitations of your PTSD. So him and I went through counseling together and the therapy together. And we were married for 30 years before, I lost him to cancer. So,
mm, yeah. It surprises me. Like, there's so many people out there that want to understand what the triggers are, and I think one of the, well, I can't really pinpoint one particular one, but just off the top of my head, one of the triggers for me is a close family member that passes. Now, I know that that's a normal thing that happens anyway, but when you have bipolar or any form of mental health, having that trigger of, say, your mum or your dad or a sister passing, even nephews, or nieces for that matter, obviously. But I found with my mum, my dad, two sisters, and two nephews that had passed earlier in the piece, or no, sorry, later in the piece, um, I found very hard to move forward. I kept questioning why. Why did they have to go? One nephew was only, well, they both were 34-year-old, but one nephew had a hole in the heart, one artery to the lung. His health was declining anyway, so we knew he was going to die at some stage, but didn't know when.
mm,
But the other nephew, he passed away. We couldn't work out why, but a week before, he'd been into hospital, had surgery on his shoulder, and he said to the doctors or the nursing staff at the hospital, I've got a stinking headache. They said, oh, it's just a headache. Take a couple of Panadol, you'll be right. Well, they sent him home. Anyway, he said to his wife, not feeling real great, going to have a lay down, call me when tea's ready. Yeah, righto. So she sent one of the kids in to say tea was ready. They couldn't wake him up. So anyway, she goes in, tries to wake him up. No, nothing. She realised what had happened, so she called 000, which is our emergency number here in Australia. And he was pronounced dead just before tea time. And he was only 34. Now, the
it's hard.
doctors, mm, So if the doctors had looked into it further, they would have known it was a blood clot that killed him. Anyway, there was a big court case over the family and the hospital that caused this to happen. But
Yeah, I understand exactly where you're coming from with that. Um, when my husband was diagnosed, before he got sick with the liver cancer, when he was diagnosed with diabetes,
mm,
um, he was going to the VA here in Texas. Well, actually,
mm,
at that time, it was back in New Hampshire where we lived, and he was telling the doctor the same thing.
mm,
Something's wrong. I'm putting on weight too fast and it's not like 1 or 2 pounds. I'm gaining like 10 to 15 pounds in too short of a time. It's like 1 week. And he says, my appetite's not changed. Nothing's
mm,
changed to make me put on this weight. And she kept, because my husband's normal weight was like 130
mm,
to 155 because he was 5'9".
mm.
And she kept telling him, well, you're fine, you're fine. You don't weigh 200 and somewhat pounds yet, so I wouldn't worry about it. Everything's fine. Next week, his weight jumped up again. And within a month's time, he went from 130 pounds to 285 pounds in a
Ooh,
month. And he
blimey.
had a bunch of appointments. He came home. He was going to bed before I did, which wasn't a problem. I wasn't tired. He said he was thirsty, so I made a jug of ice water and put it beside the bed on his side of the nightstand. He went through that ice water within like 5 minutes. He
Wow.
came down, made some Kool-Aid, and went through 2 jugs of Kool-Aid. And at that time, when I went to check on him, it was like he was having a stroke. He couldn't
Mm,
talk. He knew where he was and everything else. He was very coherent. He just couldn't talk right. It was like somebody that just
mm.
had a stroke where their speech is impaired and you can't understand them. That's what it was like. And I said, oh no, he's having a stroke. So I had called the Asker nurse at the VA hospital, and I was telling them what was going on, and they were talking to me, and they said, okay, they called the ambulance right then and there. We bring them into the hospital. Unfortunately, the VA hospitals up here are not the greatest. They're
Mm.
not real good with a lot of the veterans, and they almost gave him, because they thought it was a stroke as well. And they almost gave him medication for a stroke, which would have killed him because it wasn't a stroke. Until one
Mm.
nurse said, no, no, don't give that to him yet. Wait. And when they found out his sugar was 1,335, and the doctor said, you must have angels watching over you because you should have been comatose or dead
Wow.
because nobody's ever had sugar that high.
Good Lord.
And he was, like I said, coherent, but because of it, yeah. So, I know what you're talking about with doctors not
Mm.
listening to patients, and they should because we know our bodies better
Exactly.
than anybody.
And I'll tell you something now. If you're not happy with one diagnosis from one doctor, you've got that right to go and get a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh,
Yes,
eighth, ninth, 10th opinions if you have to. Don't settle for one. For God's sake, please don't settle for one. It's best to be on top of things now rather than leave it too late, because once it's too late, your mind doesn't think logically.
Mm-hmm.
Get it sorted now. Start getting your idea and plan, and make the plans and keep them together so that you can reach for them at a safe place and say, right, I know what's going on here. This is my first port of call. I'm going to call the doctor. Get in, see the doctor. Tell the doctor what's going on. If he recommends hospital, do it, because there's no shame in asking for help.
Exactly.
And the doctors and the nursing staff only want one thing, and that's to see you well and healthy again. All right, things aren't going to be the same because you've got a mental health problem, but hey, at least you can manage it and keep it under control once it is
Mm-hmm.
managed. So that's
If
my
you
advice.
had someone in the audience that thinks they may have bipolar but has not been diagnosed yet, what would your recommendations be?
Um, I'd go to the doctor. As scary as that sounds, it's not always easy to make a firm, logical decision. But in my part, I was lucky. I had support from people that wanted to help me, but I also recognised what was going on so I could actually reach out for help as well. Having the extra help made it easier. Um, Definitely seek medical help first. Second, we've got a place here in Queensland called Open Minds. I don't know if you've got that in the States or anywhere else, but it's where you can self-refer, um, and they put you in contact or even take you to the hospital and sit with you until the doctor comes and stays with you until after the consultation at the hospital, which is fantastic. They also gave me a lot of support, um, got me out of the house when I started locking myself away. I wouldn't go anywhere, wouldn't do anything, wouldn't talk to anybody, didn't want to know. The outside world just did not exist as far as I was concerned, because I could hear, well, not literally, but in the back of my mind, it was like, see that girl walking down the street? She's got mental health problems. She's a loony. That's what was going in the back of my mind. But I
Yeah,
could hear what people were thinking, you know, and I wanted to lock myself away from all of that. But I don't care what people think anymore. I'm a conqueror.
amen to that. Okay, what would you like to tell the audience out there about bipolar?
Um, as crazy as it sounds, embrace it, but because of the fact you've got some sort of, even a small little bit of understanding about bipolar, embrace it and think, oh, hey, that girl on Eileen's show, you wouldn't have thought she had bipolar. She's crazy, but she's funny. A funny kind of crazy, you know.
Uh-huh.
That's what my interpretation of bipolar is. It's a funny sort of crazy. And if I can live with it, hopefully other people can too.
Okay, that's awesome. Now, I'd like to give a little time. We don't have much in the audience right now, but if there's anybody in the audience that would like to ask Shaunna any questions about her bipolar, feel free. I will put the comments up there because I don't know if she has two monitors or one, so I don't know if she's able to see the chat.
Yeah, I can see the chat.
Hello, E-Waste. How are you?
Hey, e-waste.
Hey, Fury God, how are you? So if there's anybody that would like to ask Shaunna a question about bipolar disorder, go ahead and ask it in the chat. And she can answer it because who better to tell you more about it than someone that has to live with it every day.
Thank you, Fury Good.
Well, so far it doesn't look like anybody has any questions.
I think we might have covered a fair bit for him. Well, that's my hope anyway.
Yeah, and when I do these interviews, I try to cover as much as I can,
Mm.
but so people have a full understanding. But I also want to be, if somebody has a question, they can ask.
What age did I notice my first signs? Oh, I was probably around 40, roughly around about 45, 46. I mean, it was later for me because I wasn't diagnosed sooner. So I'd been going on all these years. Actually, just to give you a bit of a condensed down version, how my life led up to this, to the bipolar. Excuse me. I was living in Ross, Tasmania, which is a very small township of probably 3, maybe 400 people. Very, very small. I would have been 9 and 10-year-old at the time. First time I was 9-year-old. I was, what do they call it these days? I'm just going to say rape because that's what it was. Sexually abused is what they call it now. Sexually abused when I was 9. I never said anything to my parents. At the age of 10, sexually abused again. And again, I never said nothing to my parents at all because both people were best friends of my parents. And the one and only thing that stopped me from telling them was that they weren't going to believe me because they were, so say, friends of my mum and dad. Full forward to the age of 21, I'd been married for a year and a half, had my child, which is my daughter BB. Some people know her on YouTube. She has her own channel. Her father would belt into me and also sexually abused me. I had a threatened miscarriage with B, but then found out I wasn't just pregnant with one child, but 2. But I had lost her brother. So, full forward again to 19, well, actually, I missed part, but 1984, I lost my grandmother. Then I got married at 21, which was, somewhere along in that description. And then further into the marriage, my daughter was born 1990. By the time she was 3, she belted her father with a cricket bat, broke his jaw in 3 places. Mind you, she was only 3, but my golly, she had strength behind her. All because he had me by the throat and up against the wall, laying into me. That day she saved my bacon. And then full forward again to 1994, my father passed away. Full forward again to 97, my mother passed away. And that's where everything come crashing down. Back in 2006, or actually 2005, my daughter, BB at the time, ran away from home. By then, I'd left her father well and truly. After 9 years of abuse and whatever, I left him, married somebody else, which is who I'm living with at the moment. He's my ex-husband. Also, the guy that has been of support to me through all of my ups and downs and in between stuff. Then her and I, we sorted our stuff out. We're back on track again. We're talking. We're mum and daughter. We love each other. And she knows I'll do what I can to support her. So basically, you can see my life had been sort of a roller coaster. I did mention this on a over a 2-period, 2-part series type thing. So if anyone's interested in that, check my channel out. You'll see it. You're more than welcome to. But yeah, that sort of covered it really.
Okay, is there any other questions anybody would like to ask of our guests? I guess that was it. R5, did Shaunna answer your question the way you would like, or is there anything else you would like to know?
Okay. Well, I hope my answer helped you in some way.
As far as I know, R5, from when I did the research on bipolar, most people that get it don't start showing signs until their teenagerhood to early adulthood. When do your first signs change from being just a sign to being a realization?
That's a tricky one. I think basically it depends on that person at the time, because everyone's different anyway. So, I mean, my symptoms might be different to, say, hypothetically, Eileen's bipolar, right? Her symptoms may be different to mine. And then someone else down the track might be different again. So it's very hard to, it's like saying, well, how long's a piece of string? If you've heard that saying before, how long's a piece of string or whatever, yeah.
A typical hustlers, I think the best way to answer that is there's normally some common symptoms in bipolar disorder, but what you need to know, there are three different types of bipolar disorder. So that's why it's different. So it would, like she said, it's just that person you would know when things aren't right with you with the way you normally are. And then you
Mm.
have to, because there's common symptoms for some, and you have to check that out. But each person, with any type of mental illness, it differs from person to person.
Also, I'd definitely go back and, like I said before, get an opinion from your doctor. And if he's not prepared or she's not prepared, you can go to another doctor and get the right diagnosis. You've got the right to seek a second opinion.
Yeah, and sometimes
Definitely
second
agree with that.
opinion is really well. With our five adventures with her son that has the George, she was informing me the first doctor that he had for his the George, because he had club feet, would have paralyzed
Okay.
him or killed him.
Oh,
And she did the smart thing and wasn't happy about what he said that he wanted to do and got a second opinion, which probably saved her son's life and, made
mm,
where he's not crippled. So, yes, sometimes we need a second or third opinion.
that's for sure. And if people start to ridicule people for getting a second, third opinion, tell them that you're going to send Shaunna Sparkles over to them. She'll sort them out.
Well, if there are no more questions from anybody else in the chat, it is quite late for Shauna. As she does live in the UK, there is a big time difference with them to us. As it was when we started, I think you said it was like 1:35 in the morning.
Yeah.
So, unless anybody has any questions or anything else they'd like to say to Shauna, I'd like to let her go so she can get some sleep because it is quite late for her.
Yeah, 10:30 in the morning. That's all good.
Did you
I,
sleep at
I should
all?
get some. I'll go to sleep and probably won't wake up until 5 o'clock tonight.
Yeah, I have another friend that lives, in the UK. Arpad, you know who I'm talking about. It's Andy K. And he's about the
Yeah.
same way. He stays up rather late. I
Yeah.
have two friends, one in the Netherlands, one in Norway, and they're the same way. I call them
Oh, gosh.
vampires because they don't get tired until like the sun starts coming up. And then it's like, oh, sun's coming up, I'm getting tired. And it's like, that's a vampire.
Oh, dear. No, I mean, that's the thing with bipolar. I mean, I can, I have so much energy during the day, and like everyone's gone to bed around about 9, 10 o'clock at night, my time. Everyone's up now, um, but come 9, 10 o'clock at night, yeah, I'm so tired. I lay in bed. Trouble is, I get on my phone. Oh, what's happening on YouTube world? Oh, I've got to see who's on, you know. Then you do
Uh-huh.
that, and before I know it, oh my God, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh, well, I won't go to sleep now. So I stay on my phone, check my emails. Yeah, nothing there. So and so, so and so, so and so's on. And yeah,
We know what that's like. Andy K, like I said, is from the UK, and he's the same way. And the reason why our five calls him um, her devil of a friend is because he can't do hot stuff. So instead, he sends her things for them to do the challenges on the hot things.
oh, I can't do them. Oh,
He can't either, medically. So because he
mm.
can't do it, he'll go and buy the stuff for everybody else, and and say, "Well, I'll watch you suffer." you know, that's why she calls him a devil of a friend. Matter of fact,
Five.
next week he'll be doing the hottest candy bar challenge.
Ooh.
Yeah, she'll be doing that with Gil Skills.
Oh, okay. Someone
Thanks
else
to
that
Andy.
might be interested in checking out's Hazy Days. He's done a few hot challenges. So yeah, check him out. He's done the hottest chocolate. He's done Tower of Satan. Oh, he's done some noodle challenge. I can't think what they call the noodle one, but
Yeah,
apparently
she
it's
did
really
the
hot.
noodle challenge. That was
That's
the
the
first
one.
one she did was the noodles, and that yeah, their faces were priceless though. In it, the expressions on it.
Oh, I'd be crying.
Yep. And then they did the Naga Pepper Chocolate Challenge. That one they said wasn't even half as bad as the noodle challenge because the
Yeah,
noodles, it was the oils from it that stayed in your mouth and went down your throat. And
yeah,
with the Naga Pepper Chocolate, um, the chocolate itself helped diffuse a lot of the heat from the Naga
mm,
pepper. Excuse me. So that one wasn't too bad. So because that one didn't go as good as Andy K wanted it to be, he ordered them the world's hottest chocolate candy bar that's only about yay big, but it's
yeah.
supposed
It's only got about
to
six
be real
pieces or
hot.
something.
And they'll be doing that next week. And then she also opened her mouth for two other challenges. One was the toe of Satan, and
Oh,
the other one is a pepper challenge where she blindly reaches into the bag and doesn't know what pepper she's grabbing, and whatever she grabs, she has to eat. So,
oh,
yeah, that poor woman has open mouth
oh.
insert foot syndrome.
I'll tell you something. Thank God I can't eat it because um, it'll make my ulcers because I've got stomach ulcers, so I can't have anything too spicy.
Oh, I
And
don't have stomach ulcers, but I know I'm not that far from it because I get severe heartburn just by eating certain things that aren't really hot and spicy, and the heartburn turns into acid reflux real quick,
yeah,
and it's like,
oh
oh
yeah.
God.
Oh, not wrong.
Well, Crystal, when it does come in, I'm gonna laugh my head off every time you do your challenges, girl. One of these times you were gonna learn not to stick that foot in your mouth.
The other one that did Toe of Satan also is Sunshine Cooper.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that did that one, and I have another friend
Oh,
that did the hot nut,
yeah.
the death nut challenge. Oh my God, when he did it, I thought he was gonna kill himself. I'm watching him and I'm typing, Chris, are you okay? Chris, are you all right? Because it looked like it was really tearing him up.
Oh, yeah. Uh, all I can say that is they must have a cast iron gut.
No, she doesn't. She's
uh,
never.
it's got something.
She doesn't normally do hot stuff either,
Oh, gosh.
so her stomach is not prepared for this.
Oh, gosh.
So yeah, I feel bad for her, but I'm also gonna laugh at her just because she keeps opening mouth and inserting foot. But she
Oh,
knows
dear.
I love her.
Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it.
Like she's already got the hottest, the candy bar, the
Yeah,
small one I told you about.
of
And
course.
like she said, the toe of Satan might be on its way along with the bag of peppers that she got to blindly grab one from.
Oh, gosh.
With the first candy bar with her, it was funny. Andy K kind of tricked her. He just asked, "Did you like chocolate?" And of course, all us females are going to say, "Yeah." And she did. She
Mm.
opened mouth, inserted foot. She said, "Yeah," and that's when he sent the other chocolate. Now I
Oh,
think she knows
God.
to be careful of what she says to Andy K. But she opened mouth and inserted foot on these other two afterwards too.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Well, I want to thank you for being willing to come up and discuss your bipolar disorder. I know it must be, a lot of times it's hard for people to open up about their disorder because of the prejudices that people have. But, I'm truly thankful for everybody that is willing to do these interviews because I feel that the best way for people to understand is not just hearing the medical, part of it on, the symptoms and the treatment and
Mm,
diagnosis and causes, but to actually hear what it's like from
mm,
somebody living with it for them to understand. So maybe when they hear somebody, they can think, oh wow, maybe next time I shouldn't be so judgmental.
mm,
Because now I know what they're going through because I hear what it's like. So
mm.
maybe I can change my attitude and my perspective on it. And hopefully, with enough people coming up and being willing to talk about their mental illnesses, we can change people's perception on it.
Well,
And
we can only try.
it's better, that's my hope with my channel is, if I can change one person's opinion
That's
on
it.
any of the mental illnesses and bring more awareness to break that stigma so people know what it's like
Yeah.
instead of just coming out and prejudging and say, oh, that person's crazy. I don't want nothing to do with them.
Mm.
If I can break that stigma with people, then I feel I accomplished my goal.
Well, that's it. I mean, as the old saying goes, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Well, you can look at it that way, but also the fact that, well, like you said, if we can just reach out to one person to change their mind and how they perceive mental health and bipolar and stuff like that, the better it's going to be in the long run. Because, like we said earlier in the piece, there is such a big stigma about bipolar, about mental health, um, even schizophrenia, all the mental health problems that are in the mental health realm, or whatever you want to put it,
Hmm.
is there is a stigma for it. And you see it daily, not that people, well, some people don't mean to make fun of it, but what they don't realise is that they're making fun of someone with a mental issue or health problem. They don't realise that is hurting them.
Mm-hmm.
like the person that it's aimed at. Um, like if someone was laughing at me because I've been on here and said about my mental health and bipolar, I mean, I can just, yeah, so what of it, you know? But then there's people that haven't got the courage because they are either having a very bad low where someone with a real high, they some of them just don't really care, you know. If someone's having a dig at somebody, they don't worry about it because it's not directly aimed at them, sort of thing, you know. But like I say, everyone's different
Well,
and
you do
everyone
handle it
sees
very
things
well.
differently. Well, I try to. But then I do have my bad days as well. But I mean, I like to say what keeps me going is my YouTube channel. I do a few cooking videos. I do a few grocery hauls. Even using Snapchat as a way of escaping reality,
Yes.
um, and things like that. I just uploaded.
Yeah, to keep yourself busy and your
That's the
mind
key.
preoccupied.
That is the key. Keep yourself busy. Keep a journal. Listen to music. Meditate. Anything to keep your mind active, which is even going for a walk. If you've got a dog, take your dog for a walk. Ride a bike. There's all sorts of things you can do. And if you
Yeah,
can laugh at
another
yourself, even better again. Bonus.
another friend of mine on here lives in Maine. Oh God, my nose is itchy like a sneeze is coming. Excuse me for a minute. I hate this.
Mm,
Half the times it doesn't come out. It feels like a sneeze wants to come out and it don't.
mm,
I have a friend, another friend on YouTube. His name is Maniac Variety.
okay.
Um, he works with a lot of adults with mental health issues. Anything from like bipolar to I can't even remember what it is. Um, I think it's called irritable anger disorder.
Yeah.
It's where they go into a rage and they don't have control of it until they
Mm,
come down. Um, and you know, he he was going to come up on once, and I said, "Well, that's great." I said, "But that's just like me talking about mental health." And the main reason why I started my channel for mental health is I went through, not myself, but my boys all have mental illnesses,
mm,
and I watched their cousin made a comment to me when I went up to visit my boys. That really, if I wasn't in her home and she was in mine, I think I would have belted her one.
mm,
But I was in her home and I didn't want to cause any trouble for my boys. I mean, they're both adults, but their mental disability that they have, their mentality is that of only like an 18-year-old. They're in their
yeah,
30s, but their mentality is like a teenager, an 18-year-old. And
yeah,
she made the comment to me of, if you knew your kids had a chance of coming out like this, why did you keep having kids? And I wanted to belt her, like I said, but it was in her house. And, when I came home, I said, that's it. Because the way I took that comment was, if you knew your children were not going to be, quote, 100% perfect to conform to society, which none of us
mm.
are perfect in any way,
Oh, hell
you
no.
know, why should you have kids? And it's like, no, I'm going to break this. And the thing that really upset me with her
Yeah,
was He works for Easter Seals here for the adults in home care, which is people with severe physical or mental disabilities. And, to
Mm.
me, it's like, how can you have this attitude when you work with people? You need to care for them. It's just telling me to her, this is just a job. She doesn't really care for the people that she takes care of. She just likes to pay. And I said, no. After that, I wanted to break the stigma. And plus, where
Mm.
I have a physical handicap of my eyesight, where I grew up, I know what it's like to be on the other end of the shoe where people judge you and everything else. And it's like, no, I want to bring more awareness to this to try
Yeah.
to make it better because
And
people.
good for you for doing it. Actually, coming back to when you were saying about the person saying to you about, well, if you could have done things differently, it's like asking a crystal ball, what does your future hold? Should I have kids or not? It's ridiculous the way she
Yeah,
put that.
and
It's good.
if you knew anything
It's
about
irrelevant.
any type of mental health, there's no test to let you know if any kids are going to come up with be mentally handicapped.
No,
A
that's it.
lot of them don't show up until teenagers. No way of knowing.
Exactly. I mean, I was bullied at school, and that was another thing that I missed off the list of things that happened through my years of growing up. Being bullied at school was another one. My grandmother actually turned up at the school one day because her house was up the road from where I went to school, and she seen these kids bullying me, so she grabbed me by the ear and frog marched me up to the headmaster, and I'm screaming at my grandmother, no, Nan, no, Nan, no. It's going to make it worse for me, Nan, because these kids are going to keep starting at me because you've dragged me away from what was going on. I'm going to cop it 10 times worse tomorrow.
Hmm.
And no, you won't. No, you won't. No, you won't. She was going on. And because she was a devout Christian, so I couldn't swear at my grandmother. Oh my goodness gracious me, no. Um, I would have got straight up the side of the ear for sure. So she's grabbing me by this ear, dragging me up to my headmaster. And my headmaster turned around and said, well, why didn't you come and talk to me about it? And I said, well, I did. But you told me, I hope you're not tittle-tattling. And that really put him down on his seat.
Yeah.
By the time I got to grade 6, I was in his class. Now I'm thinking, I bet he's wishing he didn't have me in his class. A few thumbtacks under the cracks of the seat. Goes and sits down on them. Ah! Then another time I took a cake to school, only it wasn't proper cake. It had Epsom salts in it. I didn't like my headmaster one little bit.
Yeah, I
I sent
don't
him home
think
crying.
so.
Well, he should have marked my schoolwork, and well, he didn't do anything to make sure I was safe at school. He'd rather see me get bullied. So being bullied become the bully towards the headmaster.
Yeah, I know what that's like. Growing up wearing glasses since I was 2, I used to get bullied and picked on all the time. I was in fights constantly. My
Yeah,
dad had a strict rule. His rule was, I don't want you fighting, but if somebody hits you and you do not hit back, you're going to get a double time from me when you get home.
yeah,
You need to defend yourself. Don't start the trouble, but don't stand there and let them pound the heck out of you either.
that was my
So,
problem.
yeah, so I've learned, after like the first grade, to coming home crying that somebody beat me up and my dad chewing me out because I let them beat me up, I
Mm,
learned, okay, I'm going to have to stop fighting back no matter what. But
yeah.
yeah, it's hard if you have any type of mental or physical handicap growing up because kids can be really mean.
Oh, of course I
And
can.
unfortunately, they grow up and they stay mean.
Yeah. But thankfully, I actually moved away from where I grew up. So moving to a complete different state after while of being here in Queensland and then diagnosed with bipolar, not too many people knew about it, let alone the people where I used to live in Ross. And so I managed to keep that under the hat sort of thing so they
Hmm.
couldn't. But even if they found out, I don't really care anymore. I mean, what are they going to do? Nail me to the stick and put me a light? I might just come back and warn them if they do. But yeah, no, I've always managed to, you know, I mean, you've probably seen the funny side of me and things that I've said and how I present things. But at the end of the day, it's still the bipolar is still going to be with me anyway. But because I've managed to keep it under control and not so much keep a tight grip on it because you've got to be able to move, um, just know that, well, there is things there that you can make things better for yourself and for people around you.
Hmm.
And that does make the difference. If you're able to uh, do things for yourself, even though sometimes you might think, oh, I don't really want to, just summoning up the courage to do one thing is enough to change your train of thought. Oh, well, I've done it that way. Maybe I should try this one now. And that's like keeping your journal with the dots down the side. Number one,
Hmm.
dot, dot, dot. I'm going to do this. Number two, now I'll try this. And then just put it all out of what you're going to do. Once you've done it, flip the page over. I have completed this bit. I have continued to complete another bit. And once it's all done, you can go back later and, blimey, doesn't look like I've done much, but hell, I've achieved a lot.
Yeah.
So it's
And
the small
journals
things that
are,
make the big things.
yes, and journals are also good for when you have a hard time expressing your feelings, just to jot down the way you're feeling to get it
Hmm.
out so it's not bottled up inside.
That's where a laptop or a PC comes in handy because you've got Word, Microsoft Word, or something like that particular thing that you can, oh no, that word don't fit. And well, generally in those sorts of things, they've got words that would probably fit anyway. So, and don't worry about punctuation, I don't. It's
Yeah.
only me that's going to be reading it. So, and I always forget punctuations. I always put comma where a full stop's meant to be, or where a full stop's meant to be is a comma, and yeah, who cares? I'm the only one that reads it anyway at the end of the day, unless it's my doctor, of
Hmm.
course.
Okay, well, we've been going for a little over an hour and a half, so I'd like to take this time to thank everybody in the chat for showing up. But mainly, I'd like to thank you for coming forward and being willing to be interviewed on your
Oh,
bipolar.
welcome.
I know it's not always an easy task to talk about, yourself and your problems to, practically somebody you don't know, because of the fear of like what we had stated before, the stigma.
Mm.
Um, but you managed to come forth, and that is awesome because I know this interview is going to help people that watch this later get a
Hmm,
better understanding of what it's like to live with bipolar.
exactly. And well, my hope is for the same thing. So, just a quick note, guys, if you are suffering these sorts of symptoms, please, 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 I can't stress it enough. Go and see your doctor, see a GP. If you have to, one, two, three, fourth visit, fourth opinion, don't matter how many opinions you get, just get it done.
Exactly, because you wait too late, you may not catch it in time, and it could be worse.
Exactly.
Well, thank you again, Shauna, for your
Thank
time.
you for having me.
I hope to catch you later. I will be most definitely after tonight subscribing to your channel because I don't think I
Sure.
am. And I can't quite do it on here because I'll probably end up leaving. So I will do it after. No, matter of fact, I think I am subscribed to your channel. I'm not sure. I will have to check. But I will definitely be watching more of your videos. Probably not
No
your cooking
worries.
ones because I picks on me because she has a smoker and she smokes her food and it looks so good and it's like you just love picking on me because she does it right in the before she posts it to anybody she shows it to me and it's like you just like teasing me with this, don't you? Welcome back,
All
Yarn.
right.
We're just about ready to leave, but thank you for coming in. Make sure you watch the replay of this. It was an awesome interview with Shauna on bipolar. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments after you watch the video. And if I can't answer them, I can have Shauna answer them. So goodbye, everybody. Have a great night. Thanks
Bye.
for coming.
Thank you for
Have a
having me.
great. Thanks again, Shauna.
No problem.